I think you all know from the handout a little bit about Tito, and we've mentioned his name all throughout the last week. So he's kind enough to gonna basically talk about sort of the development or the overdevelopment of the border. And I think after that, you can pick his brain in any topic about sort of development in the city as well. So we'll spend as much time as he can, and then and we'll just go.
Okay, I'm going to talk about how is interpreted the development, urban development in the Mexican border. There are two competing versions in this interpretation. One is coming from the north, from Santiago and Los Angeles, and the another one is coming from the south, that means from Tijuana. I want to show first division coming from Southern California vision, and then I'm going to explain my vision about this development in the border. First, a little context. You see all the municipalities in the border. This border is very long. It's about 2,000 miles. In kilometers, is about 3,000 kilometers. There are now very few people, still very few people, in comparison with the rest of the country. But this border is growing very fast since 80 years, more or less. After the revolution, Mexican Revolution, this border started to grow very fast. This is Tijuana, urban area, and this is topography. What happened? ¿Qué pasó con la imagen? There you go.
That was you.
Okay, you can see the enormous difference in size between Tijuana and San Diego. And in almost every urban indicator, Tijuana is 3 times San Diego. For example, population density, Tijuana is 3 times greater. Of course, in working population, etc. But you can see the topography is very similar. Both cities grew first in the lower parts and then go up the hill. Okay, I'm going to show first the version coming from the north. But before I'm going to present this antecedent, theoretical antecedent. Professor Bustamante was our founder of this institution. More or less 30 years ago, he proposed, almost 30 years ago, he proposed this definition of border area. This is Bavarian definition. That means use theoretical frame from Max Weber. He proposed that we can define this area as a geographical area crossing the border, and the limit is defined by the limit of interactions crossing the border. In particular, this proposition says A region can be binational. That is very important proposition. Second, this region has the same structure, social structure, crossing the border. And here, both sides of the border have similar economic and social processes. This proposition has some assumptions. I'm going to point out some of these main assumptions. First, social groups on both sides of the border present similar social practices. Second, people from both sides of the border have similar knowledge and knowledge of the roles of the social groups and the resultant symbology of these roles. And here, the reproduction of this social structure is the same, or the process of the reproduction of this social structure is the same crossing the border. My critique of this vision, first, about the cross-border society. The similarity between both sides of the border, social structure in both sides of the border, or the same social structure, one social structure, imply three characteristics of the relationship between social agents with the structure, social structure. And these characteristics are not met in this border, crossing the border. First, social actors of societies in both sides of the border know similar action procedures. Second, people in both sides of the border interpret and apply in the same way the semantic and normative aspects of these notions, action procedures. And here, social actors on both sides of the border have access at the same type of resources. Let's see in more detail these three characteristics. The first one. People in this border, they cannot know similar action procedures because, for example, from Tijuana, only half of population can cross the border. Only half of population has any legal document to cross the border. And of course, a lot of these people allowed to cross the border don't cross the border. And from the north side, for example, in San Diego, it was a survey 3 years ago, more or less, asking if San Diegans cross the border. And when they cross the border once or twice a year. That means a few people cross the border coming from the north. And they have the right to cross without documents. You saw maybe today in the border, nobody is asking for passports or etc. if you come from San Diego. That happened along the border. So most of the people do not interact, so they can know how each social agent is doing the things in their own environment. Second, the interpretation and application of the semantic and normative aspects. Well, the first problem here in this aspect is that people do not share the language. So that means that a lot of people is unable to interact, to make anything, any type of interaction. Most of the interaction happened in the commercial aspect. People coming from the north to buy things, people coming from the south to buy things. And that interaction is not frequent for most of the people. Okay, there is another aspect, very important aspect about this semantic or the knowledge of roles. When people interact, usually is negotiating the meaning of the action or past actions. The meaning negotiation means that people is pursuing a balance about who is winning, who is losing. This is convenient or is not convenient. I can repeat the interaction or not, etc. There are a lot of conclusions that any person take from the interaction. But this conclusion is based on the negotiation of meaning. And we do that every day in any interaction. People coming from the north or people going to the north from Tijuana, for example, when establish one interaction or interaction with people, is going to try to establish this balance about the interaction, present interaction or past interactions. This is very important for social construction of roles, each agent role in society, because that constructs the sense of the social order. Who, for example, which agent has more advantage in society? What type of agent has less advantage in society, for example? That is the sense of social order. And that is a construction coming from the interaction, this sense of the social order. In the border, we have very few opportunities to construct this negotiation of meaning, because we have very few interactions. That means our reading of social order cannot be the same as people in San Diego, because we are not negotiating the meaning of the sense of the social order. So we have different image, different symbology about this social order and roles of the agents in this social order. When I construct my position in the social order, I cannot do that by myself. I need the mirrors of the rest of the society. The rest of the society is attributing to me my position in the social order. So it's this interaction of meaning of the symbols that construct this order, the sense of this order. And that's impossible crossing the border. In other words, it's impossible to share the same definition for the same symbol about social order. And the third aspect here, social actors on both sides of the border have the same access to the same type of resources. Well, you might know that's impossible. For example, if I want to buy a house, I cannot go to Santiago to get a loan from the bank. It's impossible. They are not going to give me, ¿cómo se llama el préstamo para casas?
Mortgage.
Mortgage. They are not going to give me a mortgage if I'm going to buy here in Tijuana. In the same way, a San Diegan comes to Tijuana to ask for a loan in the bank is going to refuse this petition. So the resources are not the same for both sides of the border. That means people, agents in these sides of the border has different possibilities of the another side of the border. And that's make more strong this difference, social difference between both sides. Okay, the last thing, there is no across-border reproduction of social system. The reproduction of social system is based on the imposition of the state. The state warrants the reproduction of the social order through several institutions and through several legislations. For example, the state can decide to protect one type of industry. For example, telephone industry. Decide to make a monopoly, national monopoly, and decide to keep the prices of the service very high. In that way, the state is making more rich to the owner of this company. And that is the base to, in the next step, go to the South America to be a transnational company based in Mexico. That was possible because the state decided several things around this industry. So the owners of this company now are very powerful people. In the same way, state decided to take apart take out the help for the countryside to peasants. So now the countryside in Mexico is very poor. It was a decision, political decision. In that sense, is the national state, is keeping the social order of distribution of wealth. Or in the extreme situation, the state is using the police or the army to keep the social order. This social order, particular social order that permits the distribution of wealth. Now the state is trying to win a war on narco-traffic companies. That was not the usual way that the state was treating this narco-traffic issue. Years before, the state made deal with some groups to keep the business and looking for other groups to take to the jail, these people. Now is trying to take all people. So now it's a very hard moment in this war. That is the extreme situation. These narco-traffic groups are treating the state, national state. These narco-traffic people want a share of the national wealth, but the state is now is not allowing, is trying to stop this distribution of wealth. That is the extreme situation. In that way, the state, the work of the state is national, cannot be binational. It's only binational when one state is dominating the second state. And that is this situation happening now in Iraq. The United States government is dominating Iraq. So the United States national states, warrants the social distribution and social order in Iraq, more or less. So because Mexico and United States do not have this type of domination, there is not one state keeping together all distribution of wealth in both countries. The national states of the United States keep together things in San Diego, and national states in Mexico is doing the same, but in Tijuana, not in San Diego. So the social system is not binational in the reproduction of the social system. It's national. Okay. So the conclusion is that we have two societies, two social orders. If we want to make a definition of one region crossing the border, we have to criticize this vision. Because region is based on one social system. A region is one social system. There are not regions with two or three social systems. Can be interaction between regions, strong interaction, but no, they are not making one region. They can share a space, but they don't share a region. Here, I'm going to tell something about the difference between space and region. If you see the coffee, economic of the coffee, you can say the economic space of coffee is relating Oaxaca in Mexico and Las Vegas in the United States. They share the same economic space of coffee, but they don't share the same region. Region implies also a place, implies the same structure, social structure. So here we have social, economic space crossing the border, but there is no one region. Okay, this was this antecedent about social transfrontier society. Now, more specifically, the vision of binational metropolis. This vision was led by Lawrence Herzog, professor in San Diego State, and then by Professor Michael Lear. Maybe you know Michael Lear.
We're going to go see him. We're going to visit Michael Lear.
Yes?
Next week.
A group? Okay. Well, he knows I criticize him. And Leclerc. This scheme is from Herzog. Herzog says there is interaction, strong interaction crossing the border. And this interaction was few 70 years ago, and now it's strong. Why is it strong now? Because globalization process, internationalization process. Globalization is making stronger this interaction crossing the border. That is a division of this Herzog vision. And this interaction is constructing this urban space, economic space, social space, etc., crossing the border. And this interaction is from factories, labor markets, retail market, etc., duties, services, etc. That is the construction of the spaces crossing the border. But these spaces, these abstract spaces, materialize as transfrontier ecologies. That means they have a place. They have a place crossing the border, on both sides of the border. And when we see the places for this interaction, we see zones of global factories, transnational consumption spaces, global tourism districts, barrios crossing the border, places of transnational communities, etc. So this is the ecology of this interaction. You can visualize this with a factory in Otay Mesa. In Otay Mesa and Mesa de Otay, both sides of the border, there are very, very close buildings of factories. And in this model, the same company is owner of these two buildings crossing the border. And these buildings are very, very close. So this is a cross-border global factory, because this factory is producing for the global market. In synthesis, a transfrontier metropolis in this vision, Herzog vision, means a local urban system across the border. One urban system crossing the border. And similar social, economic, and ecological trends for Tijuana. So, urban system means that what is happening in San Diego is going to have consequences in Tijuana, and what is happening in Tijuana is going to have consequences on San Diego. That's the meaning of a system. There are mutual determination crossing the border, one system. And also, in this vision, the trends are similar. If San Diego is growing, Tijuana is growing. If something make jump San Diego in the economic growth, that's going to make Tijuana is going to jump in economic growth also. So it's not only similar trends, but also similar causes, similar reasons of growth, because they are shaping one system, cross-border system. Okay, that is the vision, but the synthesis of Herzog, because synthesis, very small synthesis, because Herzog published maybe 3 books about this and several articles in several journals. Okay. What is my vision? I was saying, crossing the border, there is spaces of interaction. Economic space, crossing the border, making one cross-border space. Social ties, interaction, social interaction, etc. Making social space crossing the border. But there is not a integration as a system, because each city for example, San Diego and Tijuana, is too tied to the national system in any aspect that can you think, in any aspect, in labor markets, investment, regulation, etc., anything. The border city belong to the national system, the own national system. Tijuana belongs to the Mexican national system. San Diego belongs to the United States national system. But they have strong interaction. This interaction is produced by the difference between both countries. That is the reason why the interaction crossing the border is not making convergence. Interaction is based on differences between both countries. In the regional theory, a strong interaction means convergence. At the end, two regions with strong interactions are going to have similar wages, similar level of unemployment, etc. But in this place, in this border, it doesn't happen. That is because this interaction is based on national differences, and because these border cities belong to their own national system. Okay. Let's see in more detail what's happening with the border of the United States. For example, in San Diego, the growth of San Diego, the growth of real income here from 1970, you see is parallel to California growth and to national growth of the United States. That means the forces fostering this growth are similar for San Diego, California, and United States. In the end of 1980s, San Diego was losing employment. So they decide, they means the local office of planning, SANDAG, with State Office of Planning and University of California, etc., several institutions, decided to make a plan to change the economic base of San Diego. The new orientation is high-tech. That means all the sectors supported by this policy and all the sectors growing fast are these activities related with high technology. For example, biotechnology, pharmaceutical, communication, software, computer services, etc. All this employment, all this type of employment was the 25% of the new employment in 90s in San Diego. So the planning of development was very successful. And what is the engine behind this? The engine, of course, is the university and some national and state funds, dollars. And this is related with endogenous, or what in the literature called endogenous growth from inside. San Diego is growing because San Diego has these possibilities with the universities that it has. They are supporting research and development for several companies in the United States. that is, this process is all but border process. Nothing to do with border. Totally apart from the border. The border is no influence in this new structure of the economy in San Diego. Okay, now we are where to see what happened with Tijuana, more or less in the same time. To understand this, I'm going to show you this scheme that express this approach that the growth in Mexican border cities depends on the adjacency of the structural difference between both countries. Okay, suppose that Mexican economy stop for a while, stop for some months or 1 year, the growth. So it's going to produce two types of consequences. First, in the national sphere, there are going to be more unemployment and lower salaries, lower wages in Mexico as a country. And also, it's going to produce more differences between Mexico and the United States as a countries. Because we are assuming here in this scheme that the economy in the United States has the own trend. Mexico is going to have probably one time, but the economy in the United States is going to have the own trend. The difference grows between both countries. And this difference between both countries, we can see the difference in the border also. So, for example, after the devaluation of peso, we see here in Tijuana lower real salary, or salary in exchange in dollars is lower. Everything is going to be cheaper after the devaluation. For example, hire people for janitors, or hire people for private police, or transportation in the city for workers, or lawyers to get some permits in the government to make investment, or land for factories. Everything is going to be cheaper. That means it's better for investment coming from outside, invest more, because it's going to be cheaper to produce the same. And that is happening. Each time the economy in Mexico reduces the rhythm, in the border, in this city, in Juarez, in Matamoros, there is more investment in maquila industry, factories, and also more people living in Tijuana across the border to go to work in San Diego, because the real salary here went down. So people, to keep the level of consumption, they go to San Diego to get a job. And other processes also are impulsed by this increase in the difference between both countries that happen in the border. But also in the national sphere in Mexico, because the unemployment and low salary, people leave their cities and go to other cities, mainly to the north, trying to cross the border to the United States, or going to the border cities to look for a job. Because here there's plenty of jobs, because this investment in Maquila, etc. Maquila, transmigration. Transmigration is people living in Tijuana and working in San Diego. The corollary of these processes is that when country goes bad, Mexico goes bad, Tijuana goes good. Any city in the border goes good. Because investment grows, more people crossing the border to work, etc. That is the paradox. And the conclusion is border cities in Mexico depends on factors related with border. And that is totally different with San Diego. San Diego growth doesn't depend on border aspects, factors. These are the main processes that foster the urban growth: maquiladora, tourism, migration, itinerant migration, transmigration, retail markets, savings, and second-hand trade. Second-hand trade is the name? And the threshold, no, el alcance, scope. Geographical scope. Process can be local, regional, or national. If the scope is local, these processes are border processes. When the scope is no only border, we can say they are binational process. This is from all these processes, there are two main processes fostering the urban growth in Mexican side, Mexican border side. Maquiladora, the first, and transmigration, the second. The main processes. Decades before, tourism used to be the main process, but not anymore. Tourism now is very, very weak industry in these border cities. Now I'm going to be a little more detailed with Maquila and transmigration. Maquila industry in Tijuana is about 33% of working population. You can imagine it's a lot of people and different type of jobs, since management, engineers, and working population in the line of production. And the multiplier effect is one. That means for one employment in Maquila, appear another employment in other sectors. How is that? It is because Maquila buys some services here, like transportation, lawyers, construction, several services. And also buy some inputs from local industry. For example, Maquila making tables, they buy these small plastic things in the leg of the table to local factories, etc. And also this multiplier is very high because people in Maquila, people in these services like transportation, etc., they buy food, they buy clothes, etc. here in Tijuana. So they produce more jobs in Tijuana, in commerce and service sectors. So Maquila is very, very important for any city in the border. Juarez has almost 40% in working population in Maquila sector. More strong than in Tijuana. Okay, and the graphics here are showing in the left graphic, the blue one, it's showing ¿cómo se dice? The usual explanation in the literature for maquila industry. Maquila depends on the economic cycle in the United States, because maquila produce final goods for consumption in the United States, like television sets, etc. So when people have more money in the pockets, they buy more things produced in this border. When there is a recession, like now, people buy less things from Tijuana, for example. And on the right side, the green graph is my proposal. Maquila is also depending on the difference between both countries. Here is the increase in the difference in the axis, x-axis. So maquila depends on both forces. First, economic cycle in the United States, economic business cycle in the United States, and also depends in the difference between Mexico and the United States. Different economic difference. And the second main process, urban process, is transmigration. People living in Tijuana, for example, and working in San Diego. Here in Tijuana is about 8% of working population, but they have 20% of total wages people receiving in Tijuana. This is very important economic impulse for the city, because this money, these people bring this money from outside, introduce this money from outside to the city. So it's a good leader for economic growth of the city. And from a model, econometric model I did, result that from 1% of the increase in the difference in wages between Tijuana and San Diego, 1%, the number of people going to work to San Diego increased in 3% in less than 3 months. That means people react very fast to the some bad conditions in Mexico, economic conditions in Mexico. And that is happening. That is possible because in Tijuana reside a lot of people who is national from the United States, is U.S. citizen living here in Tijuana. And also there are a lot of people who has the green card or the right to work legally in the United States, but they prefer to live here in Tijuana and work in Tijuana. But sometimes the economy in Mexico is very bad, so they decide to go to work to San Diego for some time, and then they decide to come again to Tijuana, to work in Tijuana. That is the reason it's possible to, these changes in the number of people, depending on conditions in Mexico and the difference between Mexico and the United States. Okay. For that reason, it's possible to explain, this is data from Aquila and transmigration, it's possible to explain that the reds and blue lines are totally parallel, are totally correlated. The red one is the difference between gross national product per capita between United States and Mexico. and the blue one is the population in municipalities in the border, Mexican municipalities. So you see, it's very related, totally related. If you pass a statistical course, you know, it's totally correlates. So that is the test for this approach I have. Finally, we can make explanation, structural explanation for the very fast growth of border cities in Mexico. It depends on the difference between both countries. When the differences are wider, the population here grow faster. And this is not, as you see, this is not new, and it's not going to stop. The difference between the United States and Mexico are growing and growing and growing. In the future, it's going to grow. You can say Mexico is making more, is poorer in the future than the United States, or you can say the United States is richer than Mexico in the future. Here, Mexico is almost the same since 1980. The income, personal income, it's almost the same. This is real prices, real gross national product. So, in 25 years, Mexico has more growth in personal income. But the United States has been growing almost constantly. Now it's a little downturn in U.S. economy, but it's going to be maybe for a while, maybe 2 years more. Then it's going maybe to grow again. But the big problem for the United States is going to be the gasoline price in the future to recover the economy. I think the U.S. government has to do something about that. Well, it's trying to do something. It's trying to buy Mexican company of gas. Well, it has to do something else. Okay, more information showing the difference between both sides of the border. Here we have the structure of the economy in San Diego and Tijuana and the trend since 1970. You see in red the main sectors. In Tijuana, manufacturing is growing since 30, 40 years ago. And now it's growing anymore. It's growing more. I think it's going to grow more in some years. But this growth is changing the economy, the city, the space, etc. In San Diego, on the contrast, services are growing very fast. Here are all these high-tech services we were talking about. So, one thing more. Maybe you are familiarized is the word? Familiarized with the global literature, global issue. Global cities, maybe you read something about. Definition of global city, maybe Saskia Sassen, you read something about Saskia Sassen? No, okay. One important characteristic of global cities is strong and stronger with the time finance sector. That is the definition for New York, London, and Tokyo, the main global cities. As you see here in this table, the finance sector is very small. Under global city definition, Tijuana and San Diego are not global cities. But Tijuana is the most internationalized city in Mexico, probably, because most of the half of the economy of this city is oriented to other parts in the world. So that definition made for global main cities is no good for these cities in the border, even though these cities are totally global. Tijuana in particular. Okay, more arguments, more data, criticizing Herzog's vision. In the Herzog vision, in the past, Tijuana and San Diego were more different. And now, because globalization, Tijuana and San Diego are more related. That means in demographic terms, that the demographic processes are more similar now than before. But this graphic is showing the opposite. In the past, the growth of rates of population were very similar in Tijuana and San Diego. When San Diego grows, Tijuana grows. When San Diego stopped to grow, Tijuana stopped to grow. But now, since 1980s, 1970s, the process has changed. Now are more different than before. Now, when San Diego grows, Tijuana stopped to grow. When Tijuana grows, San Diego stopped to grow. So, I don't have explanation why these trends are opposite now. But the fact is, Tijuana and San Diego are more different now than before. In globalization process, Tijuana and San Diego are going to be more different. It's exactly the opposite to the vision of this cross-border metropolis vision of Herzog, Professor Herzog. That means not only in the economic structure, economic trends are different, also they are different in social characteristics as demographic characteristics. Okay, the last one. So a little more as a synthesis, there is no a border system, urban system. There is no a cross-border urban system. I told you only half of population in Tijuana can cross the border. San Diego people hardly cross the border. Also, there are several services that cannot cross the border. For example, health insurance. People here has their own health insurance, and they cannot go to a clinic in San Diego. If they want to go to a clinic in San Diego, they have to pay all the costs. In the same way, people coming from San Diego here to Tijuana, they cannot use the Medicaid, Medicare, etc. They cannot use. So, also there are other services from the government, public sector that people cannot use. So there are several spaces, parts of the city that people cannot use. And no, I'm not talking about places, I'm talking about spaces, in a more abstract way. Okay, next. There are no cross-border markets, integrated cross-border markets. There are some facts about this statement. Each goods or service participate in a particular system of relative prices. For example, do you know what is Bohemia?
A beer?
A beer.
Of course.
Of course. Okay, here in Tijuana, you can buy a Bohemia with 2 avocados. Of course, you are not going to the avocados to the liquor store, no. The equivalent of 2 avocados by a Bohemia. In San Diego, avocado.
Sorry.
Sorry. In San Diego, you buy 1 Bohemia with 1 avocado. So, the relative price of Bohemia is 1 avocado. In San Diego, the relative price of Bohemia here is 2 avocados. That is a relative price. We have different relative prices. So the market of Bohemia or avocados,
Avocado is Mexican?
I don't know. You go to Ralph and you have to buy with 1 avocado, 1 Bohemia. So the system of prices are different. We have, it is an example why we have 2 economies. Next, usually, well, always, almost always, in one market there is 1 price for 1 good. If we are facing 2 prices in one market for 1 good, there is some institutional restrictions. That restriction here is the border. We have different prices for each good crossing the border. The institutional restriction is the border. For example, to make something in the teeth, here maybe $40, the equivalent to $40. In San Diego, it costs $120. Okay, that means for the same type of job in the service sector, we have different prices. We have 2 markets, no 1 market, 2 markets. That is the conclusion. If I go to San Diego to make this work in the mouth, I am not going to share a cross-border market, because the price they're going to charge to me is the price of San Diego. The origin of the buyer, it doesn't matter the origin of the buyer. The market functions with the rules of the place where the transaction happens. If a person in San Diego comes to Tijuana to buy a house, he's not going to buy a house with the San Diego prices. The house is going to have Tijuana price, with the rules of Tijuana, laws, permits from the municipality, local government, etc. Anything is a local market. It doesn't matter if the buyer is from San Diego. It doesn't matter. So we don't have cross-border markets. We have local markets with cross-border agents, but the market is local. That means we don't have 1 cross-border region. We have 2 regions, 2 markets, 2 regions. Finally, we have different planning problems and planning practice. In Tijuana, we have deficits in almost each public service, like water, pipe water, sewage, pavement in the streets, etc. In San Diego, main problems are congestion in freeways and pollution, mainly from air pollution and sea water pollution. For example, in San Diego, there is in the planning people, there is a great concern about these drops of the engine in the cars, oil drops. There are a lot of cars in San Diego. So there are a lot of drops each year when the rain is coming. Here in this region, maybe it's 3 weeks of rain, but it's very strong. So all this accumulation of oil on the streets in the January is more or less the month of rains, is going to, this oil is going to end in the shores, in the seawater, because the topography, you saw the topography, is oriented to the sea. They blame us about the bad water they have, us, Tijuana, but they have their own problems with this pollution. And planning. Planning, well, in Tijuana it's oriented to places because we have to solve this problem of urbanization, sewage, water, pavement, etc. And also we have the local government is very weak because doesn't control the installation of water, electricity, only control pavement. If the government wants to plan the city, the growth of the city to the south, it's going to be very difficult finally that the city is to the south, because the growth depends on where is the main pipe of water. If the company of water decide to make the main pipe of water to the east, local government cannot do that, cannot change this situation. In San Diego, in contrast, local government has power, so can decide where is going to go all these facilities, water, sewage, etc. And also has very strong position to negotiate with states of California or national, well, states always, to decide where is going to be the line of the freeways. What is the direction of freeways? Like Freeway 5, you know now Freeway 5. This was a negotiation between the state of California, national states, federal government, and each county in California. So they have this power. Here in Mexico, municipalities, they don't have power to negotiate. Okay, yeah. Finish. No more. If you want some questions, we have some time.
All through the presentation you have been saying that there is no border region. Mexico side, Tijuana side is a different region, San Diego side is a different region. But then we want a border region?
We want.
Do we want a border region?
You asking me if I want a border
Do you
region?
want a border region?
No, that's a lot of businessmen they want. A lot of politicians they want. In the global times, there is one issue with cities. Cities are selling themselves to attract investment. When people here said, we have 4 million of people between Tijuana and San Diego, is different than you say, we have 1.5 million. So there are a lot of people thinking that way in the business sector. That's one reason why it's very important to define if we can function as a system, urban system. And the facts, the data are showing we are not a system. We have two systems. That means the investment is going to be important. Where exactly is going to apply the investment? In Tijuana or in San Diego? It's not the same. Because there is no consequence crossing the border. If San Diego receives this investment, it's not going to be consequence in Tijuana.
If the businessmen and like sort of economists or whatever, people investing in business in Tijuana want it to be more of a cross-border region. Wouldn't some of the implications of that be negative to them? Like if we're to operate as a cross-border region, wouldn't then some of the sort of standards of things that go on in San Diego start to apply to things that go on in Tijuana, just by the nature of having one community instead of two? Like
What do you mean?
pollution state. Like the reason people look at their factories down here is because pollution standards are lower, the wages are lower. It's cheaper for them to build things on many levels. So if it became a cross-border region, why would I just don't understand why the businessmen would want that.
Actually, they don't want.
They don't.
They want to show us one region, to sell this region. But they don't care about if this is going to be the same or not. But they use this vision, this argument.
One region market.
Exactly.
One region market.
But wouldn't that region then expand to become a binational market? Like how can you cross a national border and keep it as a bi-region market? I mean a one-region market. So
One region market?
how can you cross a national border and keep it as a one-region market?
This the last argument.
How do you define that region?
Okay, we have to define market first.
Yeah.
A market is an interaction, economic interaction, where when you give some wealth or money in exchange of good or service. And regulation of this interaction, well, first, always there is a regulation, always.
Sure.
It's a non-legal regulation or legal regulation, or both, usually both. The non-legal regulation is the way people is accustomed to do things. And in this accustom is involved the trust. People need to trust in the partner. So these type of regulations are totally local tied, are tied to a place. Even in between two cities in Mexico, local regulations have some difference. Here, for example, in Tijuana, people have more trust in partners than in the south part of Mexico. Usually, people in, for example, Mexico City, they are waiting that the plumber is not going to do the things good, always in the house when you call a plomero. But here you can trust it's going to be good, clean, etc. The regulation, the non-formal regulation are different. In Tijuana and San Diego also there are different regulations, non-formal regulations, and also legal. Taxes are different. The need to declare for taxes also is different. So there are a lot of differences. So that means each place has the own regulation for market. When people coming from San Diego is going to buy a car, is going to apply Tijuana regulations, no San Diegan regulations. That means the market is local.
Yeah.
That is different than the market of wheat or coffee. The prices of the coffee market is decided in London, sometimes in New York. The coffee from Oaxaca, the price to send the coffee to Las Vegas is decided in New York, in the exchange, in the Bolsa, stock exchange. That is international market. But to buy a car here is not international, because the prices are decided here, this side of the border. Of course, there are several goods and services with international markets, and there are several goods and services with local markets, with international agents. But the price is decided locally. Another.
In terms of the maquiladoras, what are the negative implications? Because I've been doing some reading, and it seems that a lot of the money involved in purchasing supplies and then also the finished product leaves Mexico, and it seems to mostly just have an employment impact here. Is that true?
Yeah, the main advantage from Mexico is employment. No taxes, because the taxes from employment is not very high, and they don't sell things here, so they don't have taxes for selling, and they don't pay taxes to import supplies or inputs, and they don't pay taxes to take the final product to the United States. So, consequence on the fiscal aspect is very low. Employment is very good, very strong consequence to Mexico. And the bad part is that most of this employment is low skilled employment. That means the share of the engineers or managers is very small in total employment in Maquila, very small. Another bad thing is, not now, before it was the pollution, some industries, but now the federal government is controlling stronger than before. Particularly with the emissions to sewage system and emissions to solid solid trash. Two principal polluters, way to pollute. So now the federal government, through Secretary of National Resources, Environment and National Resources, Semarnat. They have inspections each month to all maquilas. I don't know how well they do the job, but they have these inspections.
you think the maquiladoras have a negative impact on the way urban development happens in Mexico?
Okay, in Tijuana and Juarez.
In Tijuana, sorry.
And Juarez. I think there is because internal needs of this industry, they need to be located, well, first, close to the cross-border gate. Second, very close to the main roads. And third, and lately, they want to be located close to the workers' neighborhoods. So these are the three main factors of location inside the city. And the consequence is bad for the main roads in the city, because the pressure is very strong, because there are very big trucks taking the products to the border, and big buses or a lot of buses taking people to the job, to work. But I think this is yes, this is a burden, but the taxes they pay should be enough to the government, local government, put a good payment, for example. But the local government spend the money in other things, actually.
How do those taxes?
No, I don't hear. Please, could you use?
Oh, sorry. The taxes that the local governments collect for the maquiladoras being here, how do they get managed? Do they go to the federal government and then back, or how does that work?
In Mexico, the federal taxes are the main taxes. Federal government take taxes from the salary, from the income in general of the companies, and from the selling products and services. The local government only get taxes from the property. And these properties, manufactured properties, are not the highest prices properties. The highest prices properties are in downtown or close to downtown, and factories are in the periphery. So from the maquila, local taxes are not very high.
What do you think is better for the local government? The system you have now where the factories are located in Tijuana, the maquiladoras, or the worker exchange program, the Bracero program? What's this what it's called? Bracero?
Bracero.
Yeah. Which is better for the local economy?
For local government here, Tijuana.
See.
Yeah. Bracero program was very important, not for Tijuana, not for border cities, because people were coming from every part in the country. Border cities were a bridge only. So a lot of people stayed finally here because they couldn't go, didn't want to go, etc. Bracero program is not going to change too much the border cities. If a new Bracero program appears, it's not going to change too much these border cities, because it's going to introduce very few changes in this city, very few. The consequences are very small. Here is more important the investment from direct investment in Maquila, because I told you it's not only the direct job people get here from Maquila from investment, but also the derivated jobs in commerce and service sectors. All this small army of engineers in Maquila they spend money in health services, not cheap, expensive health services. They spend money in expensive restaurants, etc. So Maquila is introducing this vitality in all sectors also, through the people working in Maquila, through the consumption of these people in the city.
But today, now that Tijuana has a large sustained population of local residents, if there were a new worker exchange program, do you think that it would be different today? I mean, certainly it would be different today than in the 40s and 50s when that were to occur. I've been thinking about this a lot. You know, what if there was a way where more citizens of Tijuana could freely move across the border for temporary employment?
Yes, I am not sure a lot of people from Tijuana will take that advantage to go to work, especially if the job is in San Diego, of course, because they are not going to move. They are going to stay here, living in Tijuana. That only enlarge the number of people, could enlarge the number of people going to work to next city. People here, I don't know why they don't like to go out and to move, to migrate. They want to stay here in the region. I don't know why.
With the unrest last year, with the drug cartels and the violence that was occurring, I read a few articles that some of the wealthy are now moving to San Diego County. Do you think this is going to have any effect sort of on the economy since they're taking that property value?
Yes, it has effects in several sectors in the economy. First, houses and property market. There are more each time, more houses, big houses selling, on sale. That means the prices of these specific type of houses are going down. Second, there are more and more houses for rent also. Also, this is good for people here. Prices are going down in rent. That also has consequences on health services, because there are less dentists or doctors with job in private sector, because there are less people with capacity to pay the prices. And also restaurant sector. There are some high-price restaurants that are selling, are closing, or closed some months ago. So there are consequences for the city, because when a restaurant or a group of restaurants are closed, all that specific area is going to be less activity. So less people crossing the streets, etc. Less attention from the government, local government, etc. So there are some changes also in the urban space. That is specifically coming from violence. But there are other consequences coming from changes in the tourism patterns. Now the tourists coming from the United States are not going to downtown Tijuana, are going to coast. So downtown Tijuana is dying, as any other big city in the United States and Mexico, in any part of the world. The only area where downtown of the cities are alive is Europe, because wealthy people live in downtown. In downtown of America cities, all America, the wealthy people is outside of downtown. Here in Tijuana, still is close to downtown. People live very close to downtown. People with higher income. And that is the reason that Zona del Rio is alive. Zona del Rio and all the periphery of this Zona del Rio. Because the location of demand side is very important for location of supply side. That is because the cost of transportation. Not only in money, also in time. Particularly when the streets are very congested. So here is very important and the consequence, spatial consequences of these changes in security, in tourism, etc. Has consequences, you see the consequences in the space. Good.
That's it.
Nice to see you.